Hey, it's Becky from Patchwork Posse, and today we are going to make a super cute cover for a travel tissue. These are the small little packages that you get. They're perfect for tossing in a bag, taking on a retreat, putting in your purse, or even giving as a gift. Covers are super easy to sew, don't take much fabric or much time. This project should take you less than about 15 minutes to make. All right, we are going to make a super cute Kleenex holder. So this is just a travel pack of Kleenex tissue, and we are going to make a holder or an outside cover for it. The first thing you're going to do is have two pieces cut and ready to go. So we need a smaller square. I've got the dimensions on the blog post or in the description. 6 by 6 is what this one measures. This one is 6 by 8. Now, this larger piece is going to be seen just along the edge, the trim of the tissue holder. So when you're picking out your fabric, just take in that consideration. This is kind of the body of the tissue holder, and then this is going to be the trim. So the first thing you're going to do is place right sides together and pin this edge, and you are going to take this over to the sewing machine and you are going to stitch this from edge to edge. Once that is stitched, you are going to grab the body fabric, and you are going to kind of scoot it over and line up the other edge. Now notice it is going to bubble because that one piece is larger, so it's not a big deal. This is what we want. That's how we get the trim, the cute little trim. So now I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch this side. So the first thing you're going to do after you have that stitch, and it kind of looks like a tube, is you are going to take this to your ironing board and you are going to press towards your main fabric. This whole seam, you're going to press it over to the main fabric side. It is a little tricky just because it's a tube, and so you just have to kind of wiggle things around and not put too many creases where you don't want them. All right, now that we have that pressed to our main fabric, we're going to just kind of scoot this around and measure on both sides an equal amount. Should be around 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take my ruler here and line up my 1/2 inch right on that seam line, and that looks about right, and that should be the same on the other side. So I've got my seam line lined up with my ruler, and then I've got 1/2 inch on that side as well. So now I'm going to give this a really good press so this stays, making sure that my seam stays to the main fabric as well. All right, the next thing we are going to do is take this to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch our top and our bottom. However, we are going to leave a 2-inch opening so we can turn this right sides out. All right, so I've got it sewn here, and you don't have to sew this folded side because it's already nice, and so you just stitch across the top, leaving that opening so you can turn it. We are going to go inside our hole. We're going to kind of pinch an opposite corner with our thumb and our finger, and we are just going to poke our finger right out, and we're going to pull this all the way right sides out. It's not the biggest hole, so it might take a minute, but it should work through. Then I've got this super handy, this is the purple thing, and this you can use as a stiletto, but you can also use this to push your corners out as well as your seams. So once we get it turned right sides out, I'm going to use this little tool to push my corners out, make sure they are nice. I'm going to run this right along the edges and push my seams out from the inside. I'm going to repeat it for the other side. So I'm going to run my tool right along that seam, and it just pushes it out really nicely, and then poke my corner. It should not, because it is pointy, but it's not sharp like a needle. It shouldn't poke through your fabric, okay? So, but you don't want to push it too crazy hard. I'm going to check all my corners. This one looks good. This one needs just a little bit of help. So I'm going to go back in and make sure it is good and ready. Now we are going to lay this out. We're going to kind of fiddle with our seams and make sure they're all laying flat. We are also going to tuck this seam, because this was our opening. We don't need that opening any longer, and we need to close that with our next stitch. So what we're going to do is we are going to push that seam inside, that hole we used for turning, and we are going to lay this really nice and flat. Give it a good finger press, make sure it looks good. And now that that is all nice and flat, we're going to give this a really good press. Now at this point, I'm not going to be sewing that opening closed yet, because the next step will take care of that. So what you can do is mark the center of this whole piece. You can do that by folding this in half and pressing it. Just creasing that line. And then opening it back up. Now that we know where the center is, we are going to fold this edge that has our decorative side on it. We're going to fold it to the center. So we're going to line up our folded edge right along our crease line. We can go past it just a teensy bit. We're going to do the same for the second piece. And we are going to overlap it just a little bit, like 1/8 of an inch. You could do up to 1/4 inch, but not too much. So then we're going to pin this to keep them in the correct position. All right, with this all pinned, let me show you that this is going to overlap just a little bit. This will help your tissue holder stay closed and won't be open and have a big old gap at the top. It'll look really nice. So now that I have this pinned, you're going to take this to the machine and you're going to stitch on this side as well as the other side. Now these two sides have a nice fold, so they don't need to be restitched. So just stitch the two ends. All right, with that stitched, you are just going to flip this again, right sides out. And you are going to take that handy dandy purple thing and you are going to push your corners right out as best you can. It is a little bit of bulk in here just because there's a lot of fabric layers, but you should be able to do it pretty good. All right, with that pushed out, we can now put our tissue in here. You just have to fiddle with this to shove it all in there, but it should fit in there nice and snug. Not a whole lot of extra fabric or floppy corners. And then as you can see, because these edges are overlapped just a little bit, it stays nice and closed. So this is perfect for tossing in your suitcase, your purse, travel bag, your sewing bag, whatever, and you have tissues on hand.